Welcome, Mick, to the Parental Alienation Omnibus. I'm Sinta Ebersohn from Fair Divorce, and I appreciate you participating.
Oh, thank you
This.
for having me.
Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do and where you are from.
My name's Mick Gerhardt. I'm an attorney here in Chicago, Illinois, United States.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I no longer practice, but I've been involved in the parental alienation, I won't call it business, but somehow involved with parental alienation for got to be a good 15 years now.
Mm-hmm. And how is parental alienation viewed in the areas that you work, in your community, in your country? What's happening
Oh,
with it? How are we progressing?
all right. Well, as you know, the United States, we're 50 different states. So obviously, and because although we're one country in 50 different states, we treat it differently in every state and every jurisdiction.
Yes.
Um, my views might be a little different than some others. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing in this area. And I'll say when I first started doing this, I remember the first time I mentioned parental alienation in a courtroom, and the judge threatened me with contempt. I was not allowed to even speak those words. And
Wow.
at that time, I really didn't know, the background of it. I learned what it was, and I was trying to present the case, saying parental alienation is involved, and I just got cut off right away.
Really? Why
Uh,
was that? Did they not regard it as a thing?
well, my guess is also along that line, probably about 10 years ago, we started, getting involved in judicial training, and we were able to present parental alienation. Before that, judges here, at least in the Chicago area, they get trained every 2 years. They're required to go through a training. And the people who train them, I'll call it a indoctrination, because that's pretty much what it was. The people who train them, and a big trainer here are domestic violence groups. And the domestic violence groups pretty much train them that anyone who uses the word parental alienation is really a person who's a bad person, and they're trying to hurt, somebody, and they're trying to manipulate the system. So that's more what the view was. Now I can use those words in the courtroom, and I haven't heard any problems in the other states about actually using the words parental alienation. In fact, it's kind of surprising. I even hear some judges now use the term parental alienation. So we have that side. Then on the other side, well, we have guardian ad litems that represent the children, and then we have custody evaluators, and we're still struggling there. I'm going to say the guardian ad litem side of it. There's some who are starting to understand parental alienation,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still pretty much on the other side. They're receiving information that anyone who says parental alienation is really an abuser who's trying to control. And we have that also with the custody evaluators and the mental health professionals. Luckily, people are becoming more educated, so we're not seeing it as much, but it's in the courtroom is pretty much one way or the other. You don't have too many people in the middle. They either believe, yes, alienation occurs, it's real, or they believe anyone who uses that term is really trying to control or abuse.
It's very interesting that they say that, because if you look at parental alienation, it's actually the alienator who's doing exactly that.
which I always find ironic. Yes, it's
Yes.
very hypocritical, or because I've learned this, thanks to the PASG Parental Alienation Study Group. Lots of things are counterintuitive, because it's very easy to see that perspective as, oh, they're just making accusations. Like, wait, you're making the accusation, and this is the counter to it.
Mm.
So,
So, do you have a personal story or a story or an interesting case that you can share with us?
um, let's see, personal story. I, I'm a father. I am divorced. I'm lucky. I am not alienated from my child, and I'll say that's probably it's the big thanks to back then it was PAAO, Parental Alienation Awareness Organization. A
Mm-hmm.
person named Jill Ajeezy. I met her when I was going through my divorce very early, and she basically educated me.
Yes.
And because she educated me, like I said, lots of things were counterintuitive. If it weren't for her, I probably would have fell into lots of different traps, which I did not fall in. Well, I won't say did not. I did fall into some of those as well, but I recognized them, or she set me straight real quick, so that I did not make the situation worse by not understanding. In my own case, I did try to mention parental alienation. At that point, I was already learning those weren't the words to use. In court, I had to use other words, whether it was, you're brainwashing, poisoning a child, or where it's not extreme as that. So I really didn't have that problem. Now, my problem I had was other cases, trying to convince people not to go down the path of, making the accusations against the other parent and being a lot, very calm and rational in the courthouse. And it's very difficult for a parent to sit there and listen to, you beat your child, or you do something, or, your child doesn't want to see you. And of course, their initial reaction is jump up and say, I love my child loves me. This is all false. And then the judge looks at the person and goes, look at the way they act in the courtroom. They're irrational. Therefore, they must be an abuser, a controller, or whatever. So when I work with clients, I spend a lot of time trying to, tell them how they have to present themselves in the courtroom. And once again, the, pitfalls and what you have to, worry about. And then there's trying to educate the judge as well. So it becomes a little bit tricky.
Yes. So with parents who are being alienated, it's very important for them to not behave in a way that fits the narrative of the alienator.
Oh, correct. And so easy for them to fall into that trap, because naturally, when you're being accused in front of a judge that you do this, or the child hates the person, the parent, because they're an abuser, they feel that's not true. Just the other day, we were throwing the ball in the backyard and getting along. And they said they really want to jump onto it, and they have to bite their tongue and
yes.
appear very rational.
Very difficult position to be in.
But at the same time, it's kind of funny because we did a study on biases of judges, and of course they all have bias. And I hate to say it, lots of judges predetermine a case beforehand. So if you have a person who's presented as an alienator, they have two choices. They can be whatever, jump up and deny it. Well, they're irrational, and all that other stuff. However, if they act very calm and the judge has already made up his mind, he's like, well, no loving parent would sit there and allow this to be said against them. So it's sort of a catch-22, and you have to know the judges, and you have to, balance everything as you go through it, literally in the courtroom at the time.
It's very challenging, and it actually just what you just said reiterates for me what I always say, and that is that divorce doesn't belong in court. It's a family matter, and it must be handled in a different way, because once again you're sitting with a judge with bias and own paradigms and own views about things, and those people end up making the decisions about your life, and they don't know you from a bar of soap.
Yeah, and that's always complaint. Yeah, we have an adversarial system, which may sort of work for unwinding businesses or other disputes, but here is it something you're trying to end the dispute, but at the same time it continues until the child is whatever, out of college or further on down the road. I won't say it continues for life through the through the child getting married and everything else. So here you're trying to make a decision that actually affects everything in the future for this child.
Yes. So from your experience, what is the best advice that you can give a parent who realizes my child is being alienated from me? What do I do? Knowing that it depends on the age of the child also.
That's very difficult because, like you said, so many things are counterintuitive. I'll say the best thing that helped me was education. I just happened to get lucky that I met Jill Agizi very early on, and she was extremely knowledgeable in this area. So she was able to helped me understand. And I think understanding it and having other people around you for support or to bounce ideas off of, at least for me, that was the best thing I could do. It was, not giving advice on how to act with the child, was educating myself so I could react to the different situations, or, look at all the perspectives as they're happening to figure out what is there's no good course of action, but what was sort of the best course of action to keep my child out of getting, deeper and meshed into what was going on.
Yes. Okay. So it's about education, 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 and then support wherever we can get it. And support would look like be people who've been through it or are going through the same thing.
Correct. For me, that was because, like I said, what is kind of bizarre because for me, there was a psychologist who went through the court system probably about 4 years, 5 years before me, and she had the exact same judge I did. She had the exact same custody evaluator, and everything was pretty much exactly the same guardian ad litem. And reading her book, I was going down the exact same path, making the same mistakes, being extremely logical. But if it weren't for Jill telling me, don't do these things, or this is the way you have to look at it.
Looks like we are having a bit of technical problems. Can you hear me, Mick? Because we've run out of time.
Somebody like Jill.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Keep up the good work.
Oh, God, it's frustrating, but I just have to do it.
Thank you very much. Keep well.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.